In this video, we are going to write this code and learn and practice a lot of basic concepts in Python practically. This program stores students' names and grades, calculates the average grade, and finds the highest and lowest scoring students. For students' names and grades, we will learn what kinds of data types we have in Python and how we can store them using lists and dictionaries, and also using a for loop to find the objects in the dictionary. We also learned some basic math operations and basic built-in functions. And finally, formatting the output of our program using f-strings. The first step is to create some variables. A variable is a name that refers to a value stored in memory. Think of it as a labeled box that holds something. You give the box a name and you can put a value inside it. Variables are case sensitive. For example, this piece of code shows that these two variables are different. Two different boxes that can store values. We have different kinds of data types, strings, which are words, integers, and also floating point numbers that include decimals. We also have lists which can store a collection of items with different types. In this list, the first item is associated with the index 0, the second one with the index 1, and so on. We can also use negative numbers starting from the last one. So in the first piece of our program, we have created two variables that contain the list of students' names in the variable students and also their grades in another variable called grades. In the next part of our code, we want to build a dictionary that stores each student's grade based on their names. A dictionary is a collection of key value pairs. It's like some drawers, each one with a label on it as a key, and there are some values inside each drawer. For example, in this code, we have a dictionary that stores some information about a student. For each key, we have different kinds of values. We can change this dictionary into a list and save it in another variable called gradebook_list. If we print this new variable, the result would be a list of some new structures called tuples. Tuples, like lists, store some values, but they are immutable and fixed. We use them to create a fixed collection of items, like order pairs and coordinates. So, in the second part of our program, we have created a dictionary. Before going to the next part of the program, let's see what these pieces of code are. These are some methods we use to modify or access some information in our objects. Let's see some examples. Suppose that we have this list of fruits. By using this method on a list, we can add another string to the list. This one removes the desired item from the list. This one reverses the order of the elements in the list. And again, you can add the same element at the end of the list. Now consider this dictionary with two keys and two corresponding values. I can use the items method that returns all the items in the dictionary as our output. By the update method and writing a new key and value in the argument, we can add another item to the dictionary. For example, here we have added a grade as a key and also a number as the value of this key. To get some specific information from the dictionary, we can use the get method and a key in the argument. The value of this key is Alice in this example. If you want to know what keys are in the dictionary, you can use the key method. We had two keys in the beginning and we added a new one in this example. And as another example, value method gives us all the values in the dictionary. Now let's get back to our next part of the program. This line simply writes students' grades colon. The next part is a for loop which is used to repeat code. In fact, we use it to loop over a sequence like a list, a string, or in this case a dictionary. So we need a variable and a sequence to loop over. Suppose that you have a list of fruits and you want to print every item in the list in the terminal. We first define a variable named fruit, and this loop assigns each element of the list to the variable and prints it. This is the result we get. As another example for the for loop, we can use this object called range, which gives us a sequence of numbers from 0 to 2. So the output of this program is three numbers, 0, 1, and 2. A more general form of this object allows you to write the start point, the end point, which is exclusive, meaning that it is not considered, and a third number that determines the steps. So the output of this code is odd numbers smaller than 11. This sequence given by our dictionary contains this information. You can see here that the two variables in our for loop are name and grade, which can be arbitrarily chosen. In the first loop, name gets the value of Alice and grade gets the value of 85.5. In the second loop, name gets a new value, which is Bob, and the number 19.0 goes into the variable grade. And finally, the last pair changes the values of name and grade one more time. At this point, when the loop ends, we should pay attention that these two values stay in these two variables. Pay attention to the argument used in the print statement. It starts with an F, and a statement is written between two quotation marks. This is called a F string, which is a way to insert variables directly inside a string. The curly braces contain the values or expressions we want to insert, and everything else is treated as plain text in the string. Consider this code as another example. We have two values for the price and tax of a kind of product. We can do the calculations right between two curly braces like this. And the result would be like this. In the next step, we are going to calculate the average grade by adding all the grades and dividing them by the number of grades we have. Let me remind you that we already have all the grades in this list. This expression adds all the elements of the list, and this one gives the number of the elements on the list. We can store the value of the average in this variable, which is the result of a division. Pay attention to the formatting of our output. This last part says that we just want to keep two decimal numbers, and Python rounds the number to the nearest hundreds. Now, this is the next step in which we find the maximum and minimum values, and we want the code to return their corresponding keys and store them in these two variables, top_student and low_student. Let's talk about these two functions. They simply find the maximum and minimum values stored in an object. For example, when we use max of gradebook, we are telling Python that we are looking for the largest value. But does Python check the keys or the values? If you print this code, the result is Charlie. Charlie is stored in the variable top_student. And for this one, the result is Alice, which is stored in the variable low_student. The problem here is that the min and max functions are comparing the keys, which are strings. Python compares the strings based on some standard numerical values that are associated with each character. Pay attention that these values, these numerical values for lowercase letters are more than the values for the uppercase letters. To access the values of the dictionary and let the min or max function compare based on these values, we can use get method for the dictionary. These are the values if you print them for each key. So by using this extra statement, we are saying, hey Python, compare these values and then return their corresponding keys. And finally, it's time to print the output. We know from the last step that these two values store Bob and Charlie as two strings. I have a question. We can use these two ways to return the value in the dictionary. Can you guess which way is faster? In most cases, the upper one is faster. These numbers show the time for 1 million trials of each code. So basically, there is no difference unless you have billions or trillions of iterations. I have provided the code in the next part. But before that, let's see the output of the three print statements at the end of this program. Oh, I think I have forgotten to talk about this one, which says go to the next line. This is the code that measures the execution of a piece of code for 1 million iterations. I think sometimes it is important to know what methods are faster. I'm a beginner myself and have just started learning and also very excited about this journey. So if you see that sometimes something is missing or could be better, just leave a comment and let me know. I'm not an expert in programming, just learning and trying to share what I'm learning. So if you like this content and find it useful, please let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.